it through the whole playthrough, including the missing parts, which I will explain shortly. I'd like to say thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking through. And man, what a game! This is hands down been the hardest game to complete that I've ever played in my life. I gotta say, I am thoroughly emotionally exhausted after playing through this. I it a bit to think about. So before I start talking about my thoughts about the game, I actually have the art book here in front of me that I received yesterday, and I gotta say this is actually quite a beautiful book, and I can't wait to read through it. But there's actually a part in this book that I want to point out before I say anything about the game. So this is quote what it says in the book. With the first game, we found in the unconditional love of a partner feels for their child and what we would do to protect those we love. As we considered similar powerful and relatable emotions, we were intrigued by the idea of loss and how it could drive us towards an incredible hatred. How far would you go to bring justice to the ones you love? How would the experience change you? What kind of repercussions would follow? We don't have to look very far to see individuals or even entire nations locked in cycles of violence, each feeling as though they were wronged in an unforgivable way, each seeking harsh retribution. With The Last of Us Part 2, we set out to create a game that explores these deep-rooted feelings that many of us may experience at different points in our lives. The story felt relevant, challenging, and completely appropriate for the world of The Last of Us. It felt worthy of bringing Ellie and Joel back for another harrowing journey. I want to point out the completely appropriate for the world of The Last of Us. Now, for those who played or watched or remember Part 1, it wasn't exactly a joyful game. There was a lot of deaths and a lot of sad moments in that game. As much as I don't agree with the direction this game went, and I question why they decided to hurt the characters that some of us have come to love so deeply in such a brutal, horrific way. I just don't understand. But it's hard to argue that this does not fit into the world that they've created within The Last of Us. Now, they could have chose to take this game anywhere they wanted to. And from the day the initial trailer dropped 4 years ago, I already kind of expected somebody that we cared about from the first one was going to die in this one. Never expected it to be quite the way that it was. Now, before I get into my issues with the story, I gotta say first and foremost, from a technical and from a visual standpoint, this game is unmatched. Like, the visuals were absolutely stunning. And it sucks because the quality of the streams that I went back and looked at a little bit through my playthrough, between the playthroughs, the quality in my videos just does not do justice. And it sucks. I hate to say it. I will be working on getting a better way to stream gameplay and to upload it to YouTube in a way that will actually do these games justice. Because to be completely frank, this will be unacceptable not only for this game, but next gen, and for a lot of the games even this gen. Just going forward, I might do like a couple more playthroughs of other games, but I will be working on getting some way to stream more quality videos because it just does not do the game. The reflections, how in depth the world was. I've never played a game that made me feel so a part of the world that I was in. Like, they went over the top with making these worlds feels so believable. And it's just I was blown away. And I'm sure there's parts in the playthrough where you can see me just admiring certain parts of the world. Now from a gameplay perspective, like a lot of people aren't fond of the playstyle of the first one, and this is much more the same with a few enhancements. I, for one, I thoroughly enjoyed the playstyle of the first one. I even enjoyed it in multiplayer. I even more so enjoyed it this time around. It was, for what Naughty Dog does for the games that they make, this was an absolute technical showcase all around. Now, their story decisions, this is hands down the most painful game emotionally I've ever had to bear through. And yet at the same time, the moments where I thought about stopping the game and I wanted to stop, I couldn't because I just had to find out how this really was going to end. And speaking of the ending, in the moment, I wanted to drown her. And I didn't really agree with Ellie letting her back up until she got back to the house. And it played the full flashback, the last flashback of Joel. And she said that I don't think I could forgive you, but I want to try. I feel like there was a decision made when she was drowning Abby where she decided she was going to be the bigger person. Because if she kills Abby, then she leaves the little boy whose name I can't remember right this moment. She leaves him to die. Or she has to take him, and at that point, what is he going to do? He's going to turn around and try to kill her too because he just don't view Abby the same way that she does. And from a perspective of someone who loved the characters of Joel and Ellie, I strongly disagree with that. And part of me still wishes that Abby died at the end of this game. And then another part of me, I guess I kind of, I get the message. Like she beat Abby, but it really wasn't Abby. It was a already beaten down lesser version of Abby. But even killing Abby, it wouldn't change what happened in the beginning, and it wouldn't make that feel any better. And I'm not quite sure if that was the direction with this game. That's just kind of how I feel at the end of it all. I do gotta say, just to put it in the universe, because I'm sure Neil Druckmann or anybody at Naughty Dog will most likely never see this. If this is the way we're gonna make the Last of Us games, can we just not make a third one? Like, I'm curious of what happens to Ellie after all this. It really sucked to see her go home and see that she had nothing left. I'm gonna assume she goes back to Jackson. Maybe she tries to work things out with Dina. It works out. What happens when she goes to talk to Tommy? Like, it does leave a few things up in the air. But yeah, I don't think I could emotionally sit through another game like this. Like, this was rough. This was hands down the most brutal, graphic. Just there was times that this game literally made me sick to my stomach, to the point that I thought I might throw up. And I've played things like Manhunt or God of War, like games that are just over the top violent, and that's just kind of the way it is. But they never put quite the emphasis on the reason or the connection with the characters like this game has done. There was a lot of controversy going into this game, and I even had to look up the leaks shortly after they came out because of the things I was hearing from friends that were other diehard fans. And there was a comment that got made to me that actually made me look up the game and see the leaks for myself. And it was the comment that they made gameplay mechanics decisions that a friend of mine did not agree with, and that he wasn't going to be a part of it. He canceled his pre-order. So that morning after I got off of work, I viewed the entire leak. And I kind of regret it. It took away a lot of moments of the game. And at first I absolutely despised playing as Abby. After the very end of it, I see why that had to be part of the game. Because the only time whatsoever I felt remotely sorry for Abby was when she was hung up on the stakes by the beach. And she just looked like a completely different character. And then we got to the water and I wanted her dead. And it's really only that one moment that makes it acceptable for how this game ended. And I feel like without the playthrough moments of Abby, that one specific moment means absolutely nothing. And I gotta give kudos to Naughty Dog. Because going into this, I swore I wouldn't care about Abby. And you couldn't justify it. I wanted her dead. I wanted to play as Ellie and watch her die. Preferably in a more horrific way than what happened to Joel. And I still kind of want that. But more than I want that, I wanted to see Abby go back home. Or I wanted to see Ellie go home. And Dina still be there. They really emphasized how much she lost at the very end. She lost her family. She lost her ability to play the guitar. And it makes me really want to know what happens to Ellie after this game. But if this is the way we're gonna make Naughty Dog the Last of Us games, we can just leave it to the imagination. Because I don't want to experience a game of this nature again. This is a very challenging game to complete. And there's actually a few moments where I contemplated if I was going to finish this game. But I had to see it through. Now, the leaks made it seem like Abby kills Ellie, and I'm sure we know what moment that is. And I see now that the leaks were very malicious. Regardless of how you agree with the story decisions that were made in this game, you cannot argue that this might hands down be one of the greatest games made. And that's just where I'm going to leave it at. Thanks for watching, everybody.